Hey, everybody, we're going to get started here in just a few minutes. Ryan is out this week, so it'll be myself and Karen Abram, and we'll get started here shortly, a couple of minutes after the hour, just to make sure we let everybody in.
I'll organize my windows a bit here while we wait to get started.
I don't have access to make this show up right on YouTube Live, so we'll just record it, and this will be sent out, everybody. So we'll be able to send the recording out, but it won't be like last week where it was up and live on YouTube at the same time as we were presenting it. So sorry about that, but I think we can probably go ahead and get started. The number of attendees seems to be kind of plateauing out. So I think that Zoom's let everybody in that might have been waiting.
All right, great. Well, then let's get started. This is going to take about an hour. I will be checking in with Susan to see if there are any questions or comments in the chat that I can address. So please make sure that you are getting those in there, and I'll pause throughout. This is not a full demo. Rather, we are focusing on specific features that help you attract and convert sellers. And I am Karen. I am one of your presenters today. I'm joined with Susan, and she is going to be helping going through that Q&A. Not chat, excuse me, I'll rephrase that. So if you do have questions, please make sure you're using the Q&A so that we can make sure that we get those answered. So on that, jumping in, attract and convert sellers, the product that we are going to be mainly focusing on for how you can best utilize features to attract and convert your sellers is in Core Present. So what is Core Present? Core Present is a pricing tool, but it is so much more. It gives you multiple different pricing perspectives in one big picture view to help you look like the expert that you are. It helps you shape all of that in a beautiful presentation. It utilizes a modern interactive dashboard, takes minutes to build, if not hours, not the hours that it used to. I am a former agent myself, and definitely remember the hours that it would take to show the multiple perspectives that I would want. And this will take you a few minutes to build. You can change comps. You can toggle property features in real time to view. Everything is within your reach so that you do not need to search around or hunt around for what you're looking for. It's fully customizable, branded presentation, live digital or print PDF, depending on what your preference is. You can track your client views and engagements as well. And we currently, since our June launch, have 20,000 listings with a Core Present. So moving along, I'm going to click through here. This is an image that has been shared around pretty frequently that I think is very useful in helping understand what makes Core Present different. Core Present's not the first CMA. We didn't invent the CMA. It's definitely have access to one through your MLS. So why this one? What's the difference? We're all accessing the same data. We're accessing data across the MLS as well as title. The difference here is we're taking that data, the way that we sort it to tell a story and arrange that data and then take that to apply visualizations to it, we're telling a story with it. So hopefully as we go through Core Present and those specific features that we're going to point out today, that becomes clear of how we're not just presenting data, but rather we're using data as more of a foundation for helping someone understand how aggressive or conservative a price is, how we're using the data to recognize different situations that a seller might be in when it comes to listing their home, whether it is that they are contingent, whether they're on the fence, whether they're shopping you. How do we utilize that data and pivot our presentation? So on that note, I'm going to keep moving along here. We're going to focus on 3 features of Core Present that let you attract more sellers. And we're going to focus on 3 features that allow you to convert more sellers. These are features that have been specifically pointed out as well by Inman, which helped us get that 5-star Inman review, as well as a finalist spot for the most innovative real estate technology. So what are those features? Starting off on Core Present to attract more, the one-pager, the setting up for success, not subjectivity, and breaking the cookie cutter delivery to connect personally. So I'm going to go through each of these. I'm going to go away from the presentation for a minute and share my screen to show the tool and walk through those features. Let me open that up here and share that screen. Okay. Oop. All right, can we see my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Thank
So the first one is the one-pager. Maybe you have someone who's slightly interested. They're not necessarily interested in a full analysis. They're not necessarily interested in a full presentation, but they told you they have 2 minutes to take a look at the market. So one sheeter is going to be probably your best bet for piquing their interest. So you start the same way you would do for any presentation or CMA or one sheeter. The process is the same. You enter that address. As you start to enter it, we're going to try to guess it. I get the information for that property that I'm pulling the one sheeter on from public tax records. I confirm that that's accurate. I go to my comparable details, in which case from here, we take that information we know about the property you're pricing. It's a single family, 3-bed, 1763 square foot home. That's the information I just confirmed on that page before. We use that information to find comparables. Now, of course, if you are used to and comfortable with entering MLS IDs, be my guest, you can absolutely enter those in here and proceed that way. Or you can take an approach here that says, if you're pricing a single family 3-bed, 1763 square foot home, we're going to look for comparables that are also single family, same bed type, similar in size. Recency is important. So is that neighborhood. So with my comparables selected here and brought to my attention, I then click Next Build CMA, or I can jump straight to the presentation. From here, I would suggest you jump straight to that presentation. It's going to then take those comparables, that detail. I'm going to go to mode here and change it to single page review. That's it. That's all I needed to do to get to the single page review. Now that one pager will highlight, this is the property that I priced. Here's my information. Here's the date the report is valid for. What does it mean to be a comparable property at a glance? Very objective. A snippet of information here that shows the most recent sold, the most recent active, the closest sold, the closest active, those averages here. I have my price per square foot, my pricing rate of change, current active shelf life. These are pop-ups, they are interactive. So if you are sharing this as one-page web, someone can click, see those properties right from there. They can also click into these as well and hover over each of those. Now, you can also view this as a PDF, in which case, if you're looking to just drop this off, here's that PDF, which ends with, I have interested buyers searching in this area. So to subtly create that, expedite that interest. So you can, from here, web, PDF, go to present and share, save, add a client to it. You can from here print it out, or you can email that one-sheeter, either way, the web or the PDF. So that's a great way for someone who says, I'm interested, but not sure if I'm open to a full conversation about it yet. I'm very busy. I don't have a lot of time right now. Can you just give me some quick information? That quick information is the one-sheeter. Tells them a little bit about the market insights, a little bit about their home specifically, and it highlights that, hey, I have buyers looking right now. This is not going to be an issue for me to sell it for you. The next way that I want to highlight in terms of how to attract sellers is to focus on what I like to say is success, not subjectivity. So on that, I'm going to back up a bit. Let me back up once more here. When I click into my address again, and I click next, I verify that public tax record information. I click my comparable details to see all the properties in the area here. I click next, build CMA. Now I'm going to add some perspective to my presentation, and perspective that is objective and not subjective. One question that we get quite frequently is, how do I adjust the value of a property? Now, you generally want to adjust the value of a property because there are certain features that property has that your property that you're pricing has or doesn't have, and you're looking to adjust that value. So how do you know how to adjust that value? One answer can very well be that you're just very familiar with the area and what certain features go for. But how do you communicate that in a very objective way to your client? One way would be to look at all the properties in the area that are comparables with that feature and the properties in that area that don't have that feature. So this way, when your client says, I have a pool, others in this area don't, how much more do I get for properties in this area that don't have a pool? Click features. Click yes and no for properties with a pool. This lets you know that there are 5 properties that are comparables. Comparables meaning in the area, same property type, bed count, square footage. 5 have a pool, 6 do not. I can do the same for closed by toggling this over and looking at those specifically. When you select them, they appear here. So now I can very objectively say to my client, on market comparables with a pool are on average going for about $1,032,000 versus the ones without a pool are going for about $952,000. So objectively speaking, the value of a pool in this area for a home your size, your bed count is adding about $80,000. I can click on these and view these individually. Now let's flip that back to how that conversation otherwise plays out. Your client says, I have a pool. Others in this area do not have a pool. How much do I generally get for having a pool versus the others? If you're not doing something like this to show that perspective in an objective way, and you generally say, for example, you'd probably get about 50,000 in this area. They're going to come back and say, you know, I was talking with another agent or my neighbor or my friend or whoever it was, and they said that I should be able to get at least 90,000 in this market, considering I have more for having a pool. If your response to that now is, maybe we can get closer to 70,000. Well, now you just took away some credibility from yourself, because in 2 seconds, we went from 50 to 70. why did that adjust? What are the facts that we're leaning on to say, why didn't we initially say 70? This way, you remove that subjectivity. So it sets you up for success. So when that same client says, I talked with another agent, a friend, my neighbor, whoever it was, and they said I should be able to get at least 90,000 more. This way you can say, I'm not sure what they looked at, but I'm looking at comparables, both on market and off market in the area, to see what the value of that feature is bringing. And when I look at it, I also look at it in perspective to everything else, so that I'm not only siloed into one detail, I look at how much properties in the area in general are going for, with and without those features as well. So that's what we mean by removing the subjectivity for success. Before I move on to our last thing for Attract, to highlight how you can connect personally with the report, were there any questions in the chat that I should cover from the one pager or this conversation around subjectivity?
Can you change square footage on the listing? That was one.
Yes. So, can you change square footage on the listing? Absolutely. So when I go to edit my search criteria from here, my subject info, when you're on this page here, excuse me, I went back one too many. When I'm pricing this property, and it is showing 1763 from public tax records. If that's not correct, if we know that they have since changed it, then change it. Change this to 2,500, whatever it currently is. Next, now we will find comparables for this property and properly identifying it as a 2,500 square foot property versus what was previously on tax records.
And then another question was, how can you pull from only one subdivision?
So right now you have it's a great question. Right now you have the option for searching by radius, drop down radius, or you can draw it. So we are adding in those features. When you draw on the map here, you would just simply click along the way for the areas that you want. You can zoom in further to see those streets and select the area that you're most interested in. We are adding options in the future here so that you can choose and by subdivision, city, zip, and so forth.
There's several questions about what's the cost and is this included in KV Core? And it's not included in KV Core. It's included in KV Core front office bundles, and it has to be purchased at the broker or your company level. So if you're an agent and you want this, you would need to talk to your broker. If you're a broker and you're looking at this saying, well, how can I get this? Contact your account manager and they can work with you to get you all set up so we can get you onboarded. And I think that was really everything. Oh, Harold asks, when will drawing be available? So I assume he means just drawing instead of the circle.
Drawing is available. So you click this right from here, and hopefully you're better at drawing than I am. I'm going to zoom in and you would simply click along the map to draw the shape that you are looking for. And there's your polygon.
All caught up on questions. So
all right, then I'm going to jump to our last feature here on Attract Sellers, which is Connect Personally. And I think that's one of my favorite parts of this program is what frustrated me as an agent was presenting a presentation that someone couldn't see themselves in. They didn't necessarily feel that it was created for them. Meanwhile, their home was very unique to them. I wanted my presentation to also be very unique to them. So there's a few ways that you can do that to help set you apart. And when you cater your presentation to that client, you are also thus separating yourself from every other agent who is instead not necessarily focusing on the differentiators of their client's home to others' home, This way, I'm going to show you some ways you can do that. For one, in the data, you can specifically highlight those features that are relevant to their home, whether it's the view, whether it's both active or closed. If their home has, for example, let me click on my closed here. There we go, for pool. So I can point out different features of their home, help them see that I see your home as more than just a 3-bed, 1,800 square foot home. I see your home as a home in this neighborhood that has a pool. I can see, for example, the specific homes to spotlight. So if there are 11 different results for this property, but if there are specific properties that have a very similar layout that I want to highlight, I can feature those homes so that I can show that I looked at other comparables, but I also prioritized homes that are very much aligned to theirs. Another way you do that is you include estimates. You include them in the conversation. So if you're talking to a husband and a wife, and the wife thinks that it should go for, let's say, we should be able to at least get 1 million. Track it. Say, well, let's look at your estimates with everything else. Your husband thinks that, nope, we should be able to get at least 1.1 million. And you're trying to remain objective. So this way, and I always like to add, and Aunt Linda thinks that we should be able to get 1.5 million, right? So add as many perspectives here with your facts. This way, you can point out what is the information that is supporting that. This way, you can also help highlight for the Aunt Linda, that is about 100,000 more than the highest sold. So this way you can get that perspective, make it very personal and connect with them. Another way you can make this very personal is in the presentation itself. So I'm going to click on create presentation. And we do have some customizations. So we'll let the presentation align to the audience so that it doesn't feel cookie cutter-ish. So for one, every one of our pages here are standalone pages that you can use. For example, the value of an agent or the home selling process. We have 3 different views of these slides. If you click under theme, this is our traditional view. Our traditional view uses infographics, very fun imagery. It kind of helps create a very approachable, relaxed tone to your presentation versus modern. You will not find any of those infographics in modern. Rather, you'll find very clean lines. You'll find these vector images, which is images with purpose. So each of these means something. They're icons. This will help connect to your modern, detail-oriented, very analytical client. They will see themselves in this presentation more than they will connect to that traditional version. Same for luxury. We'll take the same content, but rather we will lay it out differently. Instead of using infographics or the modern styling, we'll use high-res imagery. We'll use this kind of story format for them. You can customize each of these presentations. You can choose the fonts of each of these. You can choose a different color, different logos for each of these presentations as well. Another way that you can connect personally to them is to recognize their situation. So once I have all my slides selected for my presentation, I want to organize the flow. So what's the right way to organize it? You can definitely drag and drop it, but we can help you out. And this is one of my favorite, I'm going to say this throughout the webinar, that this is one of my favorites, but it is. These are 6 of my favorite features. So the ability to recognize their situation in the presentation. So if you're meeting with someone who says, you know, I'm on the fence. I see the market's hot right now. If I can get top dollar value, I would be motivated to list. I'd consider listing now. So for this person, they're the make me list seller. The order of your presentation, we're going to set it for you where you don't add slides, we don't remove slides. Rather, we take all the slides, those 16 that you want to use, and we help you order it in a flow for success. So for the Make Me List person, I'm going to start with, here's what your home is worth today. I'm going to entice them with that high number to get them off the fence. I'm going to let them know the market analysis right now is hot. I have no doubt that we will be able to get a buyer for that price. My marketing and knowledge of the buyers in this area is second to none. And I can highlight that. Moving along, that's why I'm the right fit to get it done. Versus the person who says, you know, I have to list. I'm meeting with 2 other agents tomorrow. I need to make a decision by end of the weekend. I need it on the market by Monday. Why should I choose you? Same slides, different approach, different structure, because it's a different situation. For this person, I'm going to lean right into, well, let me tell you why I am the right fit. Next, my marketing and knowledge of the buyers in the area is the right mix to get this done. I know what your home is worth. Here's that top dollar value. I'm confident we'll get it in this market. Are we ready to move forward? So it's more of that lean in aggressive approach versus that other person that I'm on the fence, right? My Make Me List seller, for them, I'm not going to start by talking about myself because they haven't even decided to list. I first need to convince them to list, then I need to convince them to list with me. So same information that I want both to take away, but structured, ordered differently so that they can connect personally to it, so that they feel heard and understood throughout the situation, throughout the presentation. Now that's the 3 features I wanted to cover on the attract more sellers. Now let's talk about convert more. So I'm going to flip to my other screen to go back to sharing the presentation for a second here. And I'll pause right there too to see, are there any questions that have come up, Susan?
Someone asked, Barbara asked, where does the featured buyers and online engagements come from? What if they're not auto-populated?
So that comes from your site. So we track all engagements across all KV Core for every client for that area. We track it for the office, we track it down to the neighborhood, then we track it down to that neighborhood that you're looking in that price point to ultimately then drill down into featured buyers.
Rosalind asked that the ones that she's done in KV Core have been too low. So these are, this is Core Present that is pulling way more data because we have access to sold data and you have all these components that you can control. So the ones in KV Core are kind of a quick out of the box CMA more than what this is with, it's not just a CMA, it's why should you hire me?
Right. We will never put you in a situation that says I have 0 buyers. So rather the default, if there's not enough data, because that could be the case, if there's not enough data there to support that, it will default to I have buyers. So we're not going to put you in that situation if that data is too low to showcase that. But it will, that first one will pull from all online engagements across your entire brokerage, and then it will drill down from there.
I think we're caught up on questions.
All right, then let's jump into Convert More, my next 3 favorite features. So on Convert More sellers, want to talk about the progress and refresh with rebuild, pinpoint interest and pivot the approach with analytics, and cater to them, but personalized to you. We talked just in this last one on Attract of how you can customize it to your client. But while you're doing that, you still want to be personalizing this to you. You want to be the center of all that catering. So let's talk about the progress and refresh with rebuild. I'm going to now go back to my other screen. So, all right, can we see my screen okay?
Yep, it's perfect.
Okay. So let's talk about rebuild. There's a few different reasons why you would want to use rebuild. I like to say that you should, if you are using Core Present correctly, you are never building a presentation twice. Okay. So if I were to, let's say, let's start one. Let's start a presentation for that 23701 Draco Way. Here it is. I start my comparable details. I go, I review that. I move into my CMA. I start playing around. I start adding, for example, the nearest pending price, the most recent pending price. I start adding, for example, some of the outliers in the area to highlight the pricing of properties that are similar square footage, but higher in bed count. And oh, my phone rings, right? So at this point, I've got an urgent showing request that I need to step away from this. I click Save CMA. It's going to ask me for the client. If that client's not in my KV Core, I can create them right from here. Let's create. Great. Now I can step away. When I come back, here's that presentation that I started. Now from here, I click Update. This is our rebuild button, okay? I click Update. It's going to remind me that this is what I was looking for in a comparable. This way I have a moment to pause to make sure, is that correct? Also, I have a moment to pause to see, has anything new hit the market? Now, the reason you might want to pause here to check that is because we show you both comparables and properties that just missed the mark for being a comparable. These solid green, red, and orange icons are the properties that meet all criteria. But if there's a property that meets some of the criteria, but not all, like this pending down the street here, I can click on it. I can see that while it is in the neighborhood, it checked that box. It did not meet the requirement for bed count. It did not meet the requirement for my square footage. But given its proximity and knowing that my clients mentioned this property 10 times, I might want to include it. I can click Add to Comps. So once I clicked Update, we'll show you, are there any properties since you last built the report that have been added or updated in the market, both comparables and both kind of comparables. So I click Next Build CMA. That update has full memory. It's going to remember everything I did. It remembers that I wanted the most recent pending, the nearest pending, that I wanted to also highlight +1 bed counts. So all of that stays intact. Also on rebuild, let's say I quickly built out a one-pager. Susan said, I only have a minute. Would you mind just dropping off something quick? I really don't have time to go through a 20-page presentation. Not a problem. I'm going to take my single page review. I'm going to click Present and Share. I'm going to download that PDF, drop it off, or I'm going to copy my link and send it to her. Okay. Now it's the next day. And she said, that was really interesting. I think I have about an hour. Can we sit down and talk a little bit more about that property, about my property? So when she's ready to talk more, I'm going to take this single page review. I'm going to update it. When I click Update, I've already done all my work here. I've done all my work everywhere. I skip to the presentation now. I don't need to go through the comp steps unless I want to review that, depending on how much time's gone by. And I can now toggle right from here to presentation or CMA. And now that's it. It took me a second now to take that from one page to that presentation. I click present and share. I look at it or PDF or web, present and share, and I'm good to go. Then I can call her and say, I can be at your house actually in a minute. Does that work? I don't need the 2 hours it will take me now to build out that presentation. Or how many, I hope it's not just me that's been in the situation where someone says, this is great, but I would really like to see what happens after this weekend of activity, or I need another week, or I would like to have the inputs of a family member or a friend. Can we meet again to go through this? Not a problem. You have this set up the way that you want. And then the second that they are ready to meet, you can go back to any previous presentation. Let's take this one here. You can update it. We met end of October. I can skip to the presentation now. It's going to update everything. It's going to update the highest, the averages, and so forth. It's going to remember the order of my presentation that I last showed them. It's going to remember the homes that I wanted to highlight. It's going to remember Aunt Linda. It's still there. So not a problem. I've now updated it to be accurate for the current day. Any questions on rebuild?
So far, there aren't any on here. There's Darlene sent heart eyes, so everything else is just going smooth.
One other thing with rebuild that I really like, this kind of goes with attract and convert, is we save all your past reports. So have you ever noticed that sometimes you can update a presentation, but it updates over your past presentation, right? Or your past CMA. I want the past one. I want to be able to show my client who I've met with since May, right? I want to show them, hey, when we last talked in May or October, I want to print that PDF. I want to show them, here's what it looked like. And I want to show them the updated version of that. So this way you can always open that past PDF, print it and say, here's what it looked like on October 20th, when you were hoping to get at least 50,000 more. I reran the information and now the market is primed to get that for you. Are we ready to move forward? So that way you have that point of comparison to show the two. And that's always here for you. It stays here up until the point that you decide to delete it. Even when you decide to delete it, we're going to make sure that that is your choice. All right, that's on rebuild. Let's talk about analytics. My fifth favorite. So on analytics, we will track if you send a web presentation, we are tracking it. We are tracking how long someone looks at it. We are tracking where they are looking at it. We are tracking what they clicked on, and we are using that information for your success to help convert them. So let's take this example here on Washington. Let me slow down. Let me do that one more time. At the bottom part of the homepage here, you can see analytics for every report. If it's grayed out, that means we don't have any. If it's not, it means we do have. Now, there are multiple reports, so we might have for some, but not others. Click on it. When you click on it, we'll highlight the average time spent. They spent 4 minutes. How many slides were viewed in those 4 minutes? They viewed 15. Also, the time on the page. So we'll show you every page and you can see where they spent the bulk of their time. These icons represent that the page has interactivity. If it's gray, that means the page has interactivity, but they did not interact on the page. If it's green, it means they did interact. Click it. When you do, hover over, we'll show you that page. This is tracking their mouse movements. The darker it is, the longer that they pause their mouse. The purple blob here is a click. So I can see that they clicked into, they were interested in knowing more about the current active shelf life. Knowing this, I'm not going to follow up by saying, hey, what did you think about the price per square foot? They didn't look at it. They didn't click into it. But I know they looked at this. I want to know why they looked at it. So this is definitely a conversation starter here. Also, whoops. There we go. We're going to take this information of where they spent their time, where they clicked, and we're going to analyze this for you with 2 suggested follow-ups. These are buttons. If we saw that, for example, on the closing and next steps, that they said they are ready to move forward, then I don't know about you, but I personally wouldn't care too much about anything else they did in the report. That's my follow-up. My follow-up is, hey, I see that you're ready to move forward. That's great. When can you connect this week on next steps? Click that. It'll populate in an email for you. You can edit this before you send it. We know who we're sending it to because that's the client signed to. You can preview that, send it right off. Or either one. We also saw that they clicked into and spent some time looking at the home on Shadyside. So this way you can connect to them to say, hey, did you have any questions about the report I sent you? By the way, did you happen to notice the home on 16A Shadyside Avenue? Right, I was hoping that caught your interest. So that way, when they say, you know, that did pique my interest, I did notice it. Great, we're on the same page. What questions can I answer? It creates a very approachable, organic way to stay connected with them and also helps subtly highlight what they're paying attention to, reinforce to them that you're noticing the right things. If that's the one you want to choose, click that one. And that will populate right there where you can edit it before sending it. Your analytics will appear when someone does close the presentation. You receive an email. That way you can act quickly. That email will then take you straight to the analytics so that you can see this view of where they spent their time, where they interacted, and some suggested follow-ups. Now, last thing I want to go through is the idea of catering the presentation to them, which we just talked about in terms of setting up or structuring it for their situation, choosing the right theme. But now I want to talk about how do you personalize it to you? How do you make sure that your brand comes through and that your information stays that key focus? So there's a few ways that you can do that. For one, under customization settings, you can set up your About Me. In your About Me, you can choose whether or not to display an image or not, toggling it on or off. We also help you write that text if you're not sure how. When you click into these, we'll give you some helper text here. If you're experienced, highlight your growth and commitment. If you're novice, highlight your hustle, your knowledge about the area. Moving into customizing those presentations for you. Both the traditional, modern, and luxury can be customized. You can choose those fonts, those colors, right? You can also choose the logos. So you can show 3 different logos right here. Your brokerage logo will generally always be in the upper right-hand corner. But if you have a team logo, if you have a personal logo, if you have won an award that you would like to highlight and have a logo for that, upload all 3. Those will all be here. Your colors, that will bleed entirely throughout the page. It is not restricted to just the header or the footer. That way, it's your branding, your personalization coming throughout the page while still catering to them. On that note, another way to do this is in the library. The library has 2 focuses. One, it's if you just need to grab a single slide, this is where you do it, in the library. Find the slide you're looking for and grab that web or PDF version. But also, you can add a slide. If I want to give that personal touch, if I like to include my favorite restaurants in every presentation of that neighborhood, or my contractors, or my team, or something specific that gives me that personal touch, I can either upload that in as an image here. Notice there's 2 different styles here. If your image already has a header, then you certainly don't want a header to appear on a header. use this one. Otherwise, use this one, and we'll keep that same header across your pages as well as ours. I can upload a video that I have to that presentation. I can use templates because maybe I don't have a slide, but I'm intrigued by the idea that I can create slides. Choose how many photos you would want on that page. Add your text, add your photos, give it a name. What section do you want to find it in? And you're done. Save it to your library. And here it is. From here, I can edit it, I can delete it. If I ever change from traditional to modern, it will change as well. So it seamlessly will flow with my presentation. Also, in creating that presentation, another way to make it very personalized to you is when you go to share it. So I'm going to skip to our presentation. If I would like to maybe send the presentation with a very warm video intro, I can upload that directly when it comes to sharing it here. So I can add that video link directly to the presentation so that when someone receives it, maybe I recorded a Loom video where I gave a very personalized greeting, or maybe I have a brokerage video that I want to add. You can do that all right from here. And these are just a couple ways now that you can cater it to them, but personalize it to you. All right, I'm going to pause here. Any questions that I could answer?
Not right now. I will say that we've had a couple of requests to see the buyer presentation. If we have time at the end, we have a buyer presentation. We just wanted to focus on sellers. But yeah, if we have time at the end, we will. Otherwise, there is an article I posted in the chat that you can go look at the buyer presentation information. But no other questions.
Okay. Then I'm going to go back to our presentation. Let me open that up here. All right, so we talked about the power of rebuild, being able to pick up where you left off, pinpointing that interest and pivoting that your approach based on those analytics, and then catering to them, but make sure that you're personalizing it to you to help convert more sellers. So we're going to now we're adding features to attract even more sellers. So, and to help convert those, that's with Sell Page. So a couple of notes on this sell page. This is our what's my home worth, but it's more than just a value on that. Again, keeping with the themes that we talked about, we want to remove the subjectivity. We want to give the perspective. We want to show what's realistic versus what's not. And we want to give real proof to the values that we're suggesting in that what's my home's worth. And while we do that, we want to subtly, constantly reiterate that that buyer interest is there. So on that sell page, this is coming very soon. We're going to give some more information about this product specifically, dedicated entirely to this product because it is a very powerful feature to highlight 3 different data sources to showcase those estimates so that you're not leaning just on one. This way, you can also keep those homeowners with you instead of going to the portals to look for those properties. You're using a heat map to show both active and sold comparables and showing those details right from here so that they can see what are those properties that you're looking at in a very transparent way to show how you're arriving at that value. Funneling it all down to a literal funnel of where's that buyer interest, showcasing again that our office tracks not just sellers, but buyers as well looking in this area, and we keep an up-to-date database of people looking, capturing that across the whole office, at a price point in the area, at a price point and this area, and then highlighting, whoops, some of those potential buyers below. So this is more details on this coming soon, but wanted to give you a sneak peek of what's to come, because it definitely fits into our theme of attract and convert. And I think we have now about 9 minutes.
Yeah,
So,
8 minutes or so. And we don't have any other questions in chat. So if you want to show the buyer presentation, if we have time.
sure. So let me go on my other screen. Sorry.
So fun in Zoom.
I did not have that set up right. Okay, let me move this over. So I love this as a buyer presentation, and fun story on that. The first approach of this Core Present was born out of Dash CMA. So if you had used Dash CMA in the past, the CMA portion should look very familiar to you. It is most of the first part of Dash CMA, this idea of looking at multiple perspectives in one view. And where that was born was from a buyer need, not a seller need. I had a client that wanted to list a prop or look at write an offer on a property that was listed for 1.2 million. They wanted to offer 900,000. That property was listed for 1.2 and was well underpriced. It was absolutely going to go for closer to 1.5. And it, spoiler alert, it did go for 1.5, but I needed a way for them to understand 1.2 was the deal. It's not going to go for that. I needed them to see that. So win the offer. What's the address of the property that I'm trying to win? We're going to keep it on that Draco property. Actually, let's use a different one. All right, here are the details of the property I'm trying to write an offer on. Next, comparable details. Again, I'm looking at properties, both that match the criteria of being similar, but I'm also going to look at what are the properties that met some of the criteria, but not all. So maybe this property is just outside my range here. I'm going to want to consider it. I'll click add to comps. I click next, build CMA. Very similar process. I'm going to, though, look at this from the buyer perspective. So my client has said they want to write an offer. Let's take this home, for example. They want to write an offer for, let's say 900,000. Or let's say, excuse me, the home's listed for 900,000. That's where I think we should be writing that offer for. But I can also add in, again, the other perspectives of our offer. My client wants to write an offer for 750. What I want to show them is their offer is over here. I want to show them the most recently sold property that's similar to this property is at 840. The closest sold is 825. So maybe this list price, maybe that is a bit high, but the most recent active is now at 899. I want to show them outliers that there are properties in this area. Now, this is the best thing to use when using a buyer presentation, in my opinion. If my client wants to write a very low offer, I want to be able to show them if there are properties in this area that are also 3 bed, same bed count, but smaller, less square footage. We're going to check. We check the MLS using all the criteria you said, and we check to see, are there any properties that are smaller? Yes, there are 3. When you check that, now I can say to them, you know, you want to write an offer for 750. Again, taking subjectivity out of it, I can say objectively, if that's the price range we should be looking at, then I think we should be adjusting our criteria, because at 750, you're 40,000 below properties that are on the market right now in this area, also 3-bed, but up to 50% smaller. So put yourself in those sellers' shoes. And I can have that conversation very objectively. You can say, let's take a look. If this is more your price range, let's take a look at these homes right here. These are homes that are at that price range in the neighborhood, same bed count, but they're smaller. So I can have that conversation. I can show that to them right from here. I can do the same thing with the features to help them see that this home has features that is helping it sell for higher than the average of the area. I can move down here to show the fresh stale, the selling pace, pricing rate of change, to let them see that, you know, right now, the last 10 sold properties sold pretty much at or above list price. In fact, that average is 6%. I can hover over to show those individual properties as well. So the tools are the same when looking at this for buyer and seller. It's the perspective and the approach that's different. When I click on create presentation now, some of our slides are slightly different as well. It's no longer about the home selling process. It's about the home buying process, what buyers want from their agent, home buying process. These slides are more relevant. The home buying process here. And again, I can view this in both traditional or modern or luxury. So similar, same flow. There's no learning curve from adapting, but for trying to find the best price, whether it's for a listing or for an offer. Ultimately, we are pricing a home. Rather, some of that content will change a little bit. And the other part on that is your approach, your presentation to it will change.
There's no other questions over in the side. I think we're all wrapped up. Thank you everyone for attending. This was really great. And thanks, Karen, for showing us all those seller features. Ryan will be back next week. So be sure to tune in next week. I think that if you registered for this session, that you're still on his reminders to get the information for the next 3, or the webinars for the next 3 weeks. So you'll be joined by Ryan and his regularly scheduled programming. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.